Thank you for joining us for the National Center for Rural Road Safety's January webinar. This is the Local Road Safety Plan Implementation Part 2. I'm going to start by closing out some of our polls and letting you know who's in the room, and then we'll jump right to our presentation. So today it looks like we have about 9% joining us from the Northeast, about 18% from the Southeast, 16% from the Midwest, about 56% from the West. And then people are joining us from, we have about 5% from federal transportation departments, about 6% from state departments of transportation, about 42% from local transportation departments. We have about 1% from state highway safety offices, about 1% from public lands, and 10% from other government agencies. We also have about 7% from local technical assistance centers, and 1% from first responders, 4% from universities, and about 20% from private consultants. As always, most of you are joining us on your own, but we do have a few groups, so I'll have a few more instructions for you in a second on how to get your information to us. And we have about 72% of you using your computer only, so I do want to point out that if you do have any audio issues today, please, as a second resort, call into the phone number that you can find in your top left-hand corner of your screen. Sometimes we do have some issues with the audio on the Wi-Fi, so again, if you are joining us by computer only, please feel free to call in if you do have any audio issues. You can also use the chat pod on the left-hand side to connect with Dana, who can help with any technical issues that you may come across as well. So I do also want to thank the National LTAP and TTAP Association. They are co-hosting today's webinar with us, so thank you for helping pull this all together. A few webinar logistics for you. This will be an hour-and-a-half long webinar. It is being recorded and will be archived on our website in about a week. For quality of this recording, you'll notice that all phone lines have been muted during the presentation. If you are listening by phone, please also mute your computer speakers, otherwise you may hear some feedback. We will have a video being shown later, and so to maximize your presentation screen for that video or for any of the other graphics, up in the right-hand corner of your screen there are 4 arrows that press outward. If you do press on that button, it will make the PowerPoint itself and the video, when we do play that, full screen and get rid of some of the extraneous information around the outsides. At the end of each section today, which there will be 4 of, we will have some time for question and answers for our presenters. I also do want to point out that there's a handout pod in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You can download the PDF version of today's slides if you would like those. They'll also be available when we post it to our website as well. And lastly, I just want to remind you about the 2 surveys that will go out following today's webinar. The first one will come out directly following it. If you do not receive that in an email, it is shown, the link is being shown on your screen right now. It's also available in that PDF. This is how you will go about requesting certificates and CEUs as well. We are catching up on the last few webinars, so you should be, if you have not received your certificates for the previous webinars, the rest of them will be emailed out today. We have a new student who has started and is helping us manually create those so that we can turn those around a bit faster than we have been able to in the past. On the screen now you'll see what an example of the course registration form for the CEUs looks like. That is required for Montana State University to get the CEUs. You can return that to continuing education at Montana State University and not to the Rural Safety Center. Once you have filled out those forms, you may also request a verification of completion form, and that will tell you what CEUs you have received from Montana State University. That would include any webinar that we have given in the past, as well as our summits that we have too. Today we have 4 presenters. Our first presenter will be Hillary Isebrands. Hillary is a senior roadway safety engineer and the team leader for FHWA's Resource Center Safety and Design Group. As a part of the 16-person national team, she provides safety and design technical assistance, deploys current design and safety technologies, and provides project reviews to FHWA's internal and external customers. She specializes in roundabouts and local and rural road safety and design. She also oversees the National Center for Rural Road Safety, a MAP 21 Center of Excellence. Hillary is a professional engineer in Iowa and Wisconsin, a National Highway Institute certified instructor, and has her bachelor's, master's, and PhD in civil engineering. Next, we will hear from Ken Kochevar. Ken has been employed with the Federal Highway Administration since 1988. In January of 2014, he transferred into his current position as Safety Program Manager. His duties include involvement with the development and implementation of California's Strategic Highway Safety Plan, the Highway Safety Improvement Plan Program, the Highway Railroad Grade Crossing Program, Roadway Departure, Human Behavior, as well as various others, including the Everyday Counts initiatives. He is also a certified NHI trainer for road safety audits and has been involved in over 12 road safety audits. Ken has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from North Dakota State University and a master's degree in transportation engineering from the University of California at Davis, and is a registered professional engineer. Next, we will hear from Trisha Tillotson, who is the Director of Public Works for Nevada County in California and is a licensed professional engineer. She's worked in the civil engineering field for the past 19 years in both the public and private sector. For Nevada County's local road safety plan, Nevada County participated in a pilot project with the National Association of County Engineers and FHWA, whereby staff prepared a simplistic plan using FHWA's template, and she'll talk a little bit about that during today's presentation. And then finally, we'll have Victoria Beale speak as well. She's the director of the Ohio Local Technical Assistance Program, where she and her fantastic team provide training and technical assistance for Ohio's local public agencies, who are directly responsible for 84% of Ohio's centerline miles. Victoria is a dedicated safety advocate and has personally led over 20 road safety audits on Ohio's local roadway system. So we do thank all 4 of our speakers for being here today. The goal for today's webinar is that once you have completed it, you will have an understanding of how to begin a local road safety plan, and you will have also heard case studies from the county, state, and FHWA division office perspectives. To achieve that goal, you will learn how to list resources for development of local road safety plans, to contrast agency approaches to supporting development of local road safety plans, and to summarize variations of development of local road safety plans. And to get us started, we have Hillary Isebrands.
Thank you, Jamie. It's an honor to be with you all today. It looks like we've got some great numbers of attendees, and it's a privilege to be co-presenting with the other speakers for today. So we hope that today is very informative to you. We provide you examples and resources, and please, if you've got a question for us, put it in the chat pod. I think we're going to have some opportunities to answer some questions as well over the phone as well as in the chat pod. So I look forward to a very engaging next 90 minutes here, talking about local road safety plans. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the resources that we have available related to local road safety plans, really what a local road safety plan is, and some examples of some pilots that we have been a part of with the National Association of County Engineers, the National Local Technical Assistance Program, and many state DOTs and local agencies across the country. So again, just giving you an overview, a high-level overview nationally in terms of what federal highways and many agencies have been working on over the course of the last 3 years. So why local road safety plans? Why this effort to consider the development and implementation of a local road safety plan? Well, really, it's quite simple. If you look at all the public roadways, there's a large percentage of public roadways that are owned and operated by local agencies. It varies significantly from state to state, but if you look at the number of local agencies and the number of lane miles out there, it is significant when you consider the number of counties, cities, towns, and villages, parishes, and other local entities. So it's very important that we pay attention to the safety on all public roads and that we support the advancement of not only data-driven approaches to safety, but also deploying proven safety countermeasures. So it is estimated that about 40 to 60% of roadway deaths do occur on locally owned and maintained roadways. Now that varies again also significantly from state to state, but that is an estimate that has been generally made across numerous associations and agencies in terms of the impact of the roadway deaths on our local road system across the United States. Federal Highways has been very active in encouraging both state DOTs and local agencies to be using data, and data is a big word. It can mean a lot of different things, but use safety data, use roadway data, use traffic violation logs, use maintenance logs. That's all data, and to target your investments and ultimately save lives. And this occurs through the project development process, whether you are in planning, you are in design or in engineering, where you're looking at an alternative analysis, or you are constructing the roadway or maintaining and operating that roadway. So it's using information that's at your fingertips and applying that to making decisions on your roadway. Every state DOT across the country here in the U.S. has a strategic highway safety plan. These get developed and then implemented and then revised every 3 to 5 years, depending on what state you're in. But every state DOT has a roadmap for highway safety within their state. Many of the states, are including local agencies and other stakeholders, law enforcement, public health, that contribute to this plan and not only try to identify what the emphasis areas are, or they do identify what the emphasis areas are, but also the solutions to reduce the number of fatal and injury crashes across their state. So this really is a model of what we are looking at for local agencies, but tends to be at a different level, of course, depending on what your local agency, your ability, your budget, your staffing at the local agency. And the local agency has the ability to utilize the information and data that the state has put together in their strategic highway safety plan and fine-tune and customize it specifically for your agency. So honing in on what issues and risks are on your roadways and seeing how that is consistent from a statewide basis or how it might be a little bit inconsistent, and working with partners both locally, statewide, and federally to address those issues. So again, why would a local agency take this on? We don't just want another plan on the shelf. Really, the thought is just like the Strategic Highway Safety Plan has a roadmap for reducing fatal and injury crashes, it does the same at the local level. So reducing fatal and severe crashes on the locally owned roadways. Developing lasting partnerships across engineering, enforcement, EMS, and education, as well as everyone in your community, getting everyone home safely. A greater awareness of the roadway safety and risks. So when you get down to the local level, oftentimes staff are wearing many more hats. They've got a lot of different responsibilities for their local agency, whether you're in an urban area or in a rural area. So how you're looking at safety might be a little bit different, perhaps, than someone that their job is safety all day, every day, 365 days out of the year. Also looking at leveraging funding opportunities, and that's funding opportunities that might be outside of your agency at the federal level, at the state level, but it also is leveraging funding opportunities within your own budget and within your own agency. Partnerships, again, with public health perhaps, public health grants, looking at pedestrian safety and connectivity. There's looking for other opportunities that might be out there where there is multiple reasons to be investing in safety. It can offer a way to be very transparent in how an agency prioritizes projects. So it is a way for you as an agency to show that you're using data to make decisions on which projects are funded first, and may help with sometimes the phone calls that you get or the knocks that you get on your door. It's not that they're not important, but you have a greater charge in terms of looking at all roadways, all intersections in your jurisdiction, and making sure that those investments are appropriate based on the data and the risk. Again, advancing risk-based, data-driven, systemic approaches. So that goes beyond the hotspot approach where you're looking at where your risks are, perhaps where a crash may not have occurred yet, but still investing in that location. And again, just being very, incorporating safety into everything that the agency does, whether it's a maintenance project, you're replacing, say, a sign or a guardrail, or you actually have some sort of a capital improvement project. So what is the local road safety plan? Now, I've given you some ideas here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to play a short video for you. So Dana and Jamie, if you could help me queue up the video, I'm going to go ahead and put myself on mute.
Over the last few years, FHWA estimates that approximately 40% of the nation's roadway fatalities occurred on local roads. So what are local agencies doing to change this trend and make their roads safer? They're making a plan, a local road safety plan. Local road safety plans are proven to help reduce severe crashes on local road systems. They provide a framework to identify, analyze, and prioritize roadway safety issues and countermeasures to address them. The plans all include some common steps, but they're tailored to reflect your community's needs. Let's drive through a few. It's important to identify stakeholders early on. These can include law enforcement, public health, emergency medical services, or elected officials. And it's okay to start small. This will be your team working together to save lives. Next, gather your roadway safety data. Don't have great data? You might have more than you think. You can use information like numbers of crashes, maintenance logs, safety audits, even traffic violations. The key is to start with the data you have available and grow it over time. Analyze your data to identify overrepresented crash types and areas that have the highest risk for future severe crashes. Then, choose low-cost, proven solutions to address those locations. The Federal Highway Administration's list of proven safety countermeasures and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's countermeasures that work are good places to start. You can implement solutions in many types of projects, from everyday road maintenance to capital improvements. The result is data-driven solutions, targeted investments, and fewer severe crashes in your community. So, start your local road safety plan today and help get people home safely.
Thank you, Dana and Jamie, for playing the video. Again, just something, a video that is short, that you're able to share with decision makers, with colleagues, with your community members, with the public, in terms of how you are addressing safety on the local road system. So we hope, and actually the link is right there, but Jamie and Dana, if you wouldn't mind copying that link into the chat pod so people can grab that easily, I would greatly appreciate it. That video really really took this infographic, as we call it, and just went through the steps. These infographics are available. We can get you a copy of this, or you can find it on Federal Highways Office of Safety website under the Everyday Counts webpage. And actually, Jamie, I might ask you to put that link in there as well. So we have that. So if you were wanting to use a hard copy of that, that would be something you would have your hands on to share, again, at a meeting, whether it be internal or with your stakeholders or even the public, as you look forward to looking into local road safety plans and how that would be implemented in your community. So local road safety plans are being developed all across the country. This is a map here. It doesn't account for all of the local road safety plans and the Vision Zero plans across the country, but we are trying to track that as we get the information and we're populating this map. So this is a culmination of work that Federal Highways has done with the National Association of County Engineers and the LTAPs, as well as work through our Office of Safety. Rosemarie Anderson has had several efforts working directly with counties. It also has counties and local agencies that on their own are developing local road safety plans. There's no established program necessarily within their state, but they are moving forward with the development and implementation of local road safety plans. There's also numerous MPOs that are included in this map, as well as some of the Vision Zero cities. So we are, again, trying to just track what folks are doing at the local level related to local road safety plans. The states that are in the gray, tan color there, those are states that have all participated in the Federal Highways National Association of County Engineers pilot program, and that was, again, working directly with the state DOT, the LTAP, the NACE affiliate in some cases, and counties. And Trisha is going to talk a little bit more about her experience, as well as Ken, there in California, in terms of participating in that pilot program. So again, there's lots going on in this area, but with those numbers that I showed you earlier, with over 3,000 counties and well over 20,000 other local agencies, and that doesn't include all of our MPOs, we've got a lot of work to do, really, in terms of being very strategic on how we deploy safety on the local road system. So this just gives you an example of different ways that has been done, as well as examples of actual agencies that have been doing that. Larimer County, Colorado, for years has had a safety effort and a plan. Clackamas County, Oregon, just updated their safety plan. It's an excellent example of how they've gone through a second version and how they've included public health. We've got states like Washington and Minnesota who have been way ahead of many states in terms of really trying to get local road safety plans in every single one of their counties across the state. And then again, you can see some other examples. We also have numerous, actually over 300 tribes that have also completed tribal safety plans. There is, we always say that local road safety plans are scalable. It really does depend on, again, the resources that your agency might have to develop a plan, the challenges that you might have, the data that you might have, and how that goes into an actual plan. So pages are thrown out there, but we call it light, medium, and robust. There's examples all across the spectrum in terms of the number of pages, the amount of content, and really the number of hours that have been spent on developing the plans. The important thing is that you're doing a plan that works for you. It works for your agency, and it works for how you do business. A quick overview of the pilot. The pilot did come, again, this is the Federal Highways National Association of County Engineers and National Technical Assistance Program, really came through our Everyday Counts data-driven safety analysis effort, which is in our what we call our EDC4. This is how that partnership really started, and we started to identify pilot states, so those states that I just referred to earlier. And through that, we were able to provide basically 6 months of a webinar every month for 6 months, training, technical assistance, providing crash data, analyzing crash data, developing a resources website, and really meeting in person and working together. That's a group that got together, the first group. Trisha's in that photo, as well as Ken, and working together to develop these plans. We did develop a template, and that template is also available if you are interested, really to prompt you in terms of the steps of local road safety plan development. In addition, we worked beyond just crash data. We really wanted a comprehensive look at safety data, which includes looking at traffic volume, looking at your roadway features, looking at maybe perhaps road safety audits. We heard in Victoria Beale's bio that she's worked on numerous road safety audits in Ohio. Maintenance logs. How are maintenance logs being looked at? Are they just being documented, or are you coming back and maybe assessing that something might need to change? So having a broader view of safety and how it can be addressed. We've used the analogy when we start to talk about looking beyond hotspots with our crash data, and really we're asking ourselves, how healthy is your road system? And you can equate this to, think about if you've had to go to the doctor, or you do go to the doctor maybe once a year, what kind of questions do they ask you? Do they say, they take your blood pressure, they check your temperature, they'll check your weight, but they also are going to ask you about your behaviors. Do you smoke? Do you wear your seatbelt? Do you wear your helmet? They also want to know about your family history. Has anything changed in your family history? Has anyone in your family had cancer or a heart attack or high blood pressure or diabetes? These are all ways that doctors assess the risk, your health risk. And we can do the same thing on our roadway networks. We can assess risk by intersections, curves, number of lanes a pedestrian has to cross. These are all clues to us and potential risk factors in looking at the safety of our roadways. This is just one more way to communicate how your agency is looking at the health of your road system. Through this program, we've also developed basically template spreadsheet templates for crash data, as well as crash tree diagrams that we could be using to help, again, identify where we might need to invest first on the network. And there's a variety of different ways that this can be done, and I believe that that both Trisha and Victoria will be sharing some of their resources. We did focus on the proven safety countermeasures, what Federal Highways has, looking at systemic application of low-cost countermeasures, looking at rumble strips, rumble stripes, retroreflective backplates, really deploying countermeasures that we know work and reduce fatal and injury crashes. We also talked about NHTSA's countermeasures that work and the importance of working with our partners in law enforcement and education to make sure we really have a comprehensive look. We use this quote throughout that process really to give people the motivation and empower them to do what you can with what you have where you are. Sometimes if we sit back and we wait, but really, what can you do today to advance safety in your community? What can you do today that might make a difference in your community, in the roads that you have an opportunity to work on? What we heard from the pilot is crash data was a challenge across the board, really related to local agencies and having access and usable data, the time to invest in plan, and of course, funding. So we had some discussions about what that might look like. That's part of the reason why we've developed some of these resources, the video and infographic for education, the template. We have PowerPoint template presentations. We have a crash tree diagram template that can be used. We also have training available, and this webinar is another way for us to get that information out. We explored flexibility in funding. And there's a lot of states that have done very unique things with helping locals fund safety projects, and I think Victoria will be touching on that a little bit later as well. We also, it's important that we share results. Thurston County, Washington, and Washington State, after the development of their plan and their investment systemically across their network on curves, so that means guardrail and rumble strips and wider shoulders on the curves, signing, they saw a reduction of 35% in crashes, severe crashes in curves after the development. Now that doesn't just mean that the plan reduce those crashes. It means the deployment and the implementation of that plan with proven safety countermeasures is ultimately what is helped them reduce their crashes in their emphasis area of curves. Just showing some examples of the plans. Again, we've got Larimer County, Nevada County that Trisha's going to talk about, a Vision Zero in Boulder, Colorado, Marin County, California, and then Clackamas County, Oregon there. There are opportunities, again, for all of you to engage and learn more about local road safety plans, and we are happy to help you work through that. So please get in touch with us, get in touch with your state DOT, get in touch with your LTAP program or your NACE affiliate, and even communicating directly back with the Rural Safety Center, we can get you that information. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jamie.
Thank you very much. And we do have a poll question for all of you. I will also remind you that we can take questions for our presenters, and you can put those right into the chat pod over on the left-hand side. Our first poll question for you is, which of the following are resources available to localities interested in developing a local road safety plan? A local road safety plan video, the LSRP infographic, LSRP template, FHWA's proven safety countermeasures, NHTSA's countermeasures that work, developing safety plans, a manual for local rural road owners, crash tree maker, all of the above, none of the above, or I don't know, I don't remember. And then we also are challenging you to write down some action items based on each section of today's webinar. So after listening to this particular section of the webinar, please write down and share with us, if you'd like, one action item that you can do to improve rural road safety in your jurisdiction. We'll give everyone just a few seconds to go ahead and fill that out. And Hillary, it does look like the only question we've received so far is the one asking if you would be able to share the link for the template. And I see that you've posted that you will put that in there for us in a little bit.
Yes, I will do that. And also, I see a lot of people looking or commenting on the crash tree diagram. We do have a link for that, and Jamie, I believe it is on the Rural Safety Center site, and we can put a link in the chat pod for that as well. Again, it's a work in progress. We are continuing to update that tool, but we do have feedback that has been very helpful for both the state DOTs that are working with the local agencies and the local agencies themselves.
I have gone ahead and closed out the poll question and broadcast the results for you, Hillary.
Yeah, and great. It looks like most of you did do all of the above. These are all resources, and maybe not every agency will use every single resource, but the idea is that there is information, resources, and examples out there that can help you develop and implement a local road safety plan. So thanks for you guys for responding to the poll, and thanks for these great answers that you all are putting in the webinar. It really helps us to know what the gaps are out there, and we can help either provide some sort of a resource or a tool and get that information to more people across the country. In fact, we did a local road safety plan workshop at the Transportation Research Board annual meeting in Washington, D.C. last week, and we had some great input from the folks that were there that we hadn't necessarily known that were interested in developing local road safety plans, anywhere from a county to a city to a state DOT to MPOs across the country. So this information really helps us advance the information that we have available to you as well.
I did post a link for everyone to the Crash Tree Maker and where you can find that on the Safety Center site. So you have 3 different links up so far in the chat pod. We'll make sure that we post those with the recording as well on our website. And next up in our presentations is Ken. Ken?
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Can you hear me?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Thank you. So thanks, everyone, for being here today, and Hillary for inviting me. Actually, when Hillary contacted me before Christmas in November, December of last year, she asked if I could participate in this webinar today to give a Federal Highway Division Office perspective So with that, I have a very short presentation. It's only 5 slides. I'm going to cover how California got involved in the local road safety plans or local road safety plan effort, the timelines for our local road safety plans in California, what we've done up to this point, where we currently stand, and our look ahead for the next 2 or 3 years on what we plan to do. And then I'll cover some division office support that we offer to the locals, the state, and the Federal Highway Resource Center. I'll cover some challenges and solutions that we've come across over the last 1.5 years, and then I'll wrap it up with some overall local road safety plan experiences, at least from my perspective. So if this works here. Let's get into the first one on how California got involved in the local road safety plans itself. As Hillary mentioned, and she showed a slide with some different SHSPs, every state, as she said, has one. California, this started for us in 2005. Really a plan that every state does need. However, it's at an extremely high level, especially here in California, where we have such a large, diverse, geographical-wise area or mass. So for the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years, we've actually been talking, even though we continue with our state SHSP, we've been talking about regional or local plans that does a deeper dive down into what people actually need for their community. And so it was like something was handed to us when in November of 2017, Hillary called me up and said, hey, would California be interested in being one of the pilot states for the local road safety plan? After she explained it, and you've seen the great video on getting different stakeholders involved, analyzing data, coming up with prioritization, and actually implementing countermeasures, it really fits right into what a state SHSP is, except on a much smaller scale. So it was not too difficult to say yes. I have a great champion at the state in the Division of Local Assistance at Caltrans. They agreed, and we're off and running. So we were one of the 6 states that did accept into that local road safety plan pilot back in 2017. For California, we had actually 5 counties that participated: Humboldt, Trinity, Nevada, which you'll be hearing from Trisha right after I speak, Yolo, and Marin. So looking back at our timeline, again, this all started for us back in November of 2017 when Hillary contacted us, and I've already told you we were pretty excited about that, jumped on board. We actually had a kickoff a couple months later in January. That was for all the pilot states that were all 6 of them that were involved. And between then, the January of 2018 to April of 2018, before we had our workshop, our first workshop in Wisconsin Dells there, the different pilot local agencies were tasked with starting to gather their data, look at actually drafting up a plan. So when they came to the workshop, they could come with questions. They had a starting point. They could work a little bit more after or as the workshop was going on with some experts like Hillary and her team to further those plans. Then from April of that year to December, or this past December here, 2019, that's really when the 5 counties, at least in California, have been working to finalize their plans. I'll mention later some of the challenges why not all of them are completed to this point. We do have 2 that are completed. One, again, is from Nevada, which Trisha will be talking about, and another one. And we knew that this being a brand new program, and so as Hillary said, it wasn't just a plan that would be developed and sit on the shelf. We knew that there was a huge lift on educating the locals. So in the last year and a half, we've had 2 webinars, we've had 2 peer exchanges, we've had 1 training. We're going to have another training in February here, and then we'll have subsequent trainings throughout the state depending on what local agencies or what areas we feel need that training. And we'll continue to do that for, I would imagine, a year or 2 or 3, depending on where we get to a point where we feel we've saturated the state and people really know what's going on. So the way things are set up here in California, well, as a nation, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, where engineering funds are given to the state and the locals, it's a federally funded state administered program. So it's really up to the state to decide how they want to distribute those funds in, within certain bounds, law, policy. And so the way Caltrans has decided to pursue this effort is, again, we're doing all this training up front, so there's nobody that is can say, we just don't know what this is, we don't know how it's done, we haven't been given any training, any resources. We've devoted a lot of this past year, as I said, to educating folks. Where we stand right now is in Caltrans, they have the capital side and they have a Division of Local Assistance. So I'm working with the Division of Local Assistance on this program here. They have it set up where every other year they go out for a call for projects, which is where local agencies can submit applications for funding of countermeasures, engineering countermeasures in their local community. So we have Cycle 10 call for projects coming up here in April of this year. We have decided, Caltrans leading this effort, Federal Highways being there at the table with them, agreeing and helping them where they can. We have decided that this year we're going to roll out with encouraging local agencies to develop a local road safety plan or equivalent. So that's where we stand right now. And then you can look at it sort of like I'm going to say a little stick with maybe a big carrot at the end, is we're going to mandate this in Cycle 11, which will be 2 years from now, April of 2022, that they have to have, local agencies have to have a local road safety plan or an equivalent plan to be able to go through the application, to be able to apply for Highway Safety Improvement Program funds. So again, nobody should be surprised at this because we're doing all this education. We're giving them 3+ years to get to that point. And I will give you some numbers during my last slide as to where we are at with, local agency grabbing onto this and how they're moving forward. So let me talk a little bit about the Division Office Support. This may not be relevant to everybody on the phone. I saw there was a small percent of Division Office folks, so maybe this is most pertinent to you, but this just gives you a little idea of what I've done to coordinate with the counties, the Caltrans, or our Caltrans Division of Local Assistance, and our Federal Highways Resource Center, that being Hillary and her team. So as far as assistance to the counties, there had to be initial contacts. When Hillary said, hey, do you guys want to do this as a pilot, she needed somebody from California, either from the state and or the division office, myself, reaching out to the counties and saying, hey, would you be interested in participating in this pilot? This is what it is. This is the timeline, blah, blah, blah. So done that. As the counties are going through with their plans, drafting them, I've reached out to them saying, hey, if you'd like a review done, I can review, offer comments, been doing that. And then any clarifications along the line. There's always issues with what do we use, how much data can we use, what form should we use, timelines. You can just continue to go on and on there. So anytime there's clarifications to them, I'm trying to relay that, and I'm getting that down from Hillary and her team again to relay out to the counties. Assistance to Caltrans Division of Local Assistance. We had to sit down when we agreed to this and say, hey, what is our plan for moving forward? This isn't just going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen without having a plan, just like the local road safety plan, getting something together to actually implement actions. So we sat down, had many meetings on how we're going to roll this out, and like I said, heavy lift up front with the educational aspect of it. Again, I'll talk a little bit about the resources in my last slide, and then really support to them. What can I do to make sure this plan is carried out? And that's been everything from facilitating webinars to presenting at peer exchanges. I've made copies for them to bring to different meetings and peer exchanges if that's what they need. I'm basically part of their staff to do whatever it is to make this happen. And then finally, assistance to the Federal Highway Resource Center. I know Hillary didn't mention this, and she wouldn't mention this, but what she brings to the table, her knowledge, her passion, her timeliness, on, as well as everybody on her team. She's not going to say it, but I'll say it. She was awarded the Secretary Award this year for the Engineer of the Year in 2019, and it really fits into everything she's done for us. She's always stepping up. You feel like you are her number one priority when you're talking with her and she's helping you on something. So how could I help them? Of course, this mimics going back to assistance to the counties. I'm reaching out to them to help Hillary bring these counties on board, these local agencies, to help the state. I've taken upon myself every 6 months to update her and her team on how the 5 plans are coming, any resources we need, just, again, giving her a short summary of what's happening so she knows and she can report out to others when she's in presentations like this on what California is doing. And then finally, assistance. I sort of look at this as paying it forward. That's why I'm here today, is making a presentation, helping her, helping you, bringing, my experience to the table, letting you know what we've done here in California to make this a reality in the future for others. So moving on to some of the challenges and solutions, keeping the local road safety plan as a priority is always a huge deal. Your directors of public works like Trisha, they just don't have safety as one of their program areas. They're doing a ton of other things, and so I have to try to keep this on their radar, that this is important, why is it important, and the timelines on when we need to see things, we need to move along, make sure they're moving along, yet understand that they have many, many other priorities. And so it's a balancing act, and hopefully they know me, that I'm pushing them, I'm reminding them, but I'm there to help them, and hopefully all of us move forward at a reasonable timeline. External factors, I can't speak for other states, but I know in California the last 3 or 4 years, it seems like this is just standard practice that we go through. Is in the summers or fall, we have our fires, they burn everything. Then you have your rainy season come in the wintertime. We have floods. You have roadways that are washed away, or hillsides that are washed, mud flows, whatever. And these things take away from the counties or any local agency that is working on something like this. I can tell you 2 of the 5 plans, one of the reasons why they're not finished is they've been affected by the fires and the floods. They basically have to drop everything because they have small staffs and they have to attend to that. So again, that's something we understand. We have to take those external factors into consideration and do what we can and then move forward. And then finally, educating all the local agencies. Already mentioned this quite a few times. I'll just throw out a few numbers here. In our 2 peer exchanges, we had, I believe, 30+ agencies at each one. In our webinars, or 2 webinars, we had over 330 participants call in. So they were hearing, what a local road safety plan is, our resources, our timelines, how we're going to help them. And I believe at the lone training we've had so far, it was 25+ students. And that's really about the limit that we can take, is around 25. So again, we'll be continuing that. But that, to me, like anything, the first thing that comes to mind is roundabouts. There was such a huge lift on educating state, local on what this is, how they're developed. That's one of Hillary's items or program areas that she's an expert in, and she's helped us get to where we are now in the roundabout area. So again, huge effort. I would tell anybody that if you don't set this up correctly, you're going to have so much more work down the road. So put that effort up front to make sure they're educated. They understand, again, what it is, where they can get help, provide them resources, provide them timelines, make everything as transparent as possible, and I believe things will follow from there. And then in my final slide here, overall local road safety plan experience. So for me, this is, I guess I've listed 4 things here. The first one is understandable. It's maybe it's a little more understandable for me because I've been dealing with the strategic highway safety plan, which this mimics for 15 years now. But it is very straightforward as far as getting or identifying stakeholders, gathering and analyzing data, prioritizing your areas, what's important to that local community versus what's important on a state SH or in a state SHSP. 2 different things. Some of those priorities could be the same. A lot of differences though too. And then again, you're taking and you're implementing. So to me, it's a very straightforward, understandable process. Customizable. I think the word that Hillary used was scalable. I compare Nevada County, who you're going to hear from next, versus an LA County. Sure, you're going to have probably different size plans. You're going to have more stakeholders probably at the LA County. But Trisha from Nevada County, she can customize, she can tailor the size of her plan and how much she puts into it, the timelines for it, how many actions come out of it. She can tailor that for Nevada County, and LA County can tailor their plan for their county. So very customizable. Accepted. I'll throw out one more pair of numbers here. So the last thing that we wanted to make sure is there were no excuses from local agencies. They may have heard what it was. They may have received templates on how to put it together. They may have know the timeline on when we were going to make it mandated before they could apply for HSIP funds or grants. But the one thing that we haven't done yet is make sure that they have the resources. And I'm speaking of funds because a lot of our local agencies, 600 plus here in California, are fairly small. So what we've done is it's called basically a set-aside. If Division of Local Assistance gets, I'm going to say roughly 110 million, we've taken, at least on the first go-around, we've taken 10 million off the top of that, and we've said we're going to set aside 10 million, give to the local agencies to develop local road safety plans. We're going to help them out. So there's no excuses that they don't have somebody that can help them do this because they have too small of a staff or they don't have the experience. So we did this, I want to say 8 to 10 months ago we started this. I just got an update yesterday. Of the 10 million, we've used 9.8 million of that, and there have been 145 local agencies that have come forward to request funds to develop a local road safety plan. Just one more little tidbit there to give you a scale of how we did this. We allocated or appropriated $80,000 per agency for this. It is a federal program, so it's a 90-10 split, meaning if a local agency requested $80,000, they would get $72,000 federal funds. They would have to match it with $8,000 of their own funds. So that just gives you a little perspective as why I believe this is being accepted here in California. And then finally, beneficial. I've seen the results in Washington. I've heard other things from Minnesota on how this is going. I believe in this. I can tell you, although I may not, I guess my only, not negative, but the only thing I'm a little sad about is I probably will be retired before we get to 2022 to see how well this is working and see some of these plans implemented. I can tell you that in my 20 years in the safety area, there's 3 programs that I've totally bought into that I devote the majority of my time toward. They are the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, which started in 2005. They are the 20 Proven Safety Countermeasures from Federal Highways that started in 2008, and Local Road Safety Plans, which started here in 2017. I believe for California, this is something that's going to help us reach our goal of towards zero fatalities and serious injuries by 2015. I've bought into it, and I believe local agencies, I know the state has bought into it, the Division of Local Assistance, and I believe local agencies are buying into this too. One final thought before we move on to a poll question. I do have to leave the call here after the questions and the chat pod are done. I need to go back actually to a Strategic Highway Safety Plan Steering Committee meeting because we just signed our new plan, and we're having some meetings on our implementation plan. But at the very end of this presentation, there will be contact information for all of us. I believe in this so much that I am happy to talk to anybody that wants to email me or call me to ask me more questions about what we've done in our state. And I do believe that if you're serious enough and you, again, have more questions that I can't answer, our champion for Caltrans in the Division of Local Assistance, he would even talk to you about some questions you may have to move this forward in your state. So I want to thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you get some more information from the remaining two speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. There is one question that is in the chat pod. I am going to ask if you wouldn't mind to go ahead and answer that directly in the chat pod. And then we also, for the City of Riverside, who asked if a recording will be made, there will be a recording available of this in about a week. It will be posted to our website, and I will put the link in the chat pod for where that will be held. We are running a little bit late, so I am going to skip through the poll questions, go directly to our next speaker to make sure we give ample time to our last two speakers. So at this time, I'm going to ask Trisha to go ahead and provide her part of the presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Trisha Tillotson. I'm the Director of Public Works for the County of Nevada in California. Nevada County is a relatively small county with a population of around 100,000 people. We're in the Sierra Nevada mountains northeast of Sacramento. It's gold country, stretching from Grass Valley, Nevada City to the town of Truckee, which is just east of Lake Tahoe. Elevations range from around 400 feet to our highest elevation is about 9,152 feet. So moving right along here. We are going to go over a few items. So I'm going to talk about our particular approach to developing our local road safety plan, our public outreach approach, because that can be kind of difficult for our staff to handle, and then what our next steps were. So why did we develop a local road safety plan? Well, we developed it really building it off of our state's strategic highway safety plan, because we realize that these plans are going to be required in the future to receive HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program funds in the future, at least in our state. So we elected to participate in the pilot project that Ken mentioned with FHWA and the National Association of County Engineers. So we ended up choosing to match our Caltrans goal, which is the California Transportation Agency, to go towards zero deaths. We then took this plan to our Board of Supervisors in February of 2019, of which our board then adopted the plan. So how did we develop the plan? Well, we decided to follow the FHWA plan that they've laid out here that's before you. So although a lot of jurisdictions spent quite a bit of time and money developing a plan, we used a simple template from the National Association of County Engineers. So by keeping it simple, the desire was that it wouldn't sit on a shelf and that our staff could actually do the plan ourselves, which we ended up doing. So for our local road safety plan, we focused, of course, on our county roads. Our first step was identifying our stakeholders. Fortunately, our community is very engaged. So our stakeholders included people that we already talk to on a daily basis, our local citizens who are involved. Of course, our County Department of Public Works began as the lead agency. We included our local transportation commission, our cities, our schools, our state agency, Caltrans, our air quality districts, CHP, FHWA, and then the Forest Service, because some of our roads are in the forest system as well. The next step that we did is we analyzed our safety data. So we input collision data. You can see here on our slide we had about 928 collisions during our study period, and we developed these charts and queried our data. So our data, we had already collected it, so analyzing it was pretty easy, and comparing that to what our local law enforcement officers were seeing really helped simplify it, just having the data available. So fortunately for us, most of our collisions resulted in just property damage, but unfortunately also 1% were fatal. But even that was too high, and that was really our approach with our community, was even one death is too high in our community, and that's why we want to have a vision of 0 deaths. The next thing we looked at was why are motorists crashing. So we looked at our top 3 primary collision factors. Those ended up being for Nevada County: improper turning, unsafe speed, and then DUI. Next, we look at what types of collisions occurred, and we looked at our top 3 primary collision types. Those ended up being for Nevada County: hitting objects, rear-ending, and broadside collisions. So I'm not going to go into details here, but you can see how we took our data and how we analyzed it, and then what we ended up focusing on, which I'll get to in a minute. So another factor that we looked at is when are most collisions occurring in Nevada County. So we looked at time of day, which is when most collisions, or daytime is when most collisions ended up occurring in Nevada County. So we also noted that there was quite an increase between 2016 and 2017, and that was an anomaly due to extreme storms that we had in California in 2017. So it's important to note any outliers like that. So next we looked at general locations. So what you see before you is a map of Nevada County. You can see in this map it's not meant to show details, but most of the collisions were occurring in western Nevada County, which made a lot of sense because that's where most of our population live. Next, we zeroed in on our top 5 collision locations in Nevada County. I'm not going to go through these here because obviously it's not going to make sense to most of you, but it was very interesting that these locations coincided with areas of concern of our own road crews, which was also an important part of our stakeholder group, was listening to our road crews because oftentimes they're aware of areas where we have issues that maybe collision reports aren't being filed for. So what we completed so far, the next step, we identified proven solutions. So it was interesting that our county capital improvement program already included a lot of proven solutions, from proposed intersection improvements at key intersections to signing improvements. And also high friction surface treatments that have been very successful up in Nevada County. So we analyzed, again, solutions for Nevada County's top 3 collision factors and types. Those, again, were improper turning and broadside collision, unsafe speeds, object impact and rear-end collisions, and then DUI. We even worked with our California Highway Patrol officers to target enforcement in areas that we had already seen a reduction in accidents, and it was very successful for us. We ended up reducing accidents in key locations. Of course, our educational efforts continue as well. So as I mentioned before, public outreach is quite a challenge for our small staff to handle. My team of engineers, aren't always the best with public outreach, so we decided to partner with our local transportation commission. Our local transportation commission, who was able to dedicate some other highway safety improvement program funds towards the development of the plan, actually hosted our first stakeholder meeting on October 31st of 2018. They assisted us with sending out invitations to key stakeholders, advertising in our local newspaper, radio, on our radio station, and then also with internet news providers in our area. We ended up getting a pretty good turnout for our community, and then comments even came in afterwards too, so it was very successful. So at the stakeholder meeting, how we ended up approaching this plan was to focus on 3 emphasis areas that I've already mentioned before. I'm not going to go through this slide in detail, but just to give you an idea, again, our first emphasis area was improper turning and broadside collisions. We identified goals and strategies for those, and as you can see here, and then asked for suggestions. Most of the suggestions were related to what we had already proposed for strategies, and some weren't doable. So our second emphasis area was unsafe speeds, object impact, and rear-end collisions. Again, I'm not going to go into detail here, but the same process we used was we proposed some goals and strategies and then asked for suggestions. So this slide shows our emphasis area 3, which was driving under the influence. And again, same strategy with the stakeholder group. Is very successful, although, as I mentioned before, some of the suggestions were not implementable, such as just close down the bars. That's not going to happen in our area. So what are our next steps in our county? Well, as I mentioned, implementing solutions would be the next step, which we are doing and have been very successful at. That includes thermoplastic striping, high visibility signage, doing high friction surface treatment projects, really focusing on education and then enforcement as well. Of course, this local road safety plan we anticipate will help us receive funding in the future, such as Highway Safety Improvement Program funds. With this funding, we'll be able to implement additional solutions and tackle our next top collision culprits. So we anticipate now updating this local road safety plan every 3 years. And by having such a simple plan, we'll be able to do that in-house with our own staff. And that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much. At this time, we will take any questions you may have over in the chat pod on the left-hand side. I am also going to move us over to a poll break and ask this rather quickly, and then we will also move along to our last speaker to give her ample time to present as well. So our poll question for you is true or false? Nevada County used the following approach to develop their local road safety plan. Participate in the NACE LRSP pilot, follow the FHWA LRSP map, utilize the LRSP template, focus on county roads, focus on 3 emphasis areas, keep it simple, and partner with the Nevada County Transportation Commission for funding. We do also have that other challenge question for you as well. So after listening to this section of the webinar, please write down and share with us if you'd like one action item that you can do to improve rural road safety in your jurisdiction. We'll give everyone just a couple seconds to go ahead and fill that out. And it does look like we have a few questions coming in through the chat pod, but they are being answered right there in the chat pod. So thank you for that as well. And then Trisha, it does look like everyone's responded to the poll question. If you'd like to talk about that answer, please.
Yes, I think the question and the answer, most of you got it correct, so that's great. And so our approach, again, the pilot project was very helpful. I think all of the tools that we use, though, are available on FHWA's website as well as NACE. Of course, if you'd like to see what we did, I'd be happy to share that with you, so please reach out to me. We did utilize the NACE Local Road Safety Plan template, which was very easy to use and simple. You know, and then I guess the rest is pretty self-explanatory. I would encourage anyone to reach out to their local transportation commissions to, you know, if you need assistance with anything. I know they helped us with public outreach and with funding.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And again, that template that Trisha was talking about, it has been posted down in the handouts for you guys to download as well if you would like a copy of that. And at this point, I am going to ask Victoria to please go ahead and present.
Sure, thank you for the introduction there, and I will just let everybody know up front that a few of the other speakers took a little longer than was anticipated during our practice time, so I'm going to do my very best to get through this as quickly as I can, but I also don't want to cut you short on the information I'm going to share with you because Ohio has a very mature program, and I think that it can definitely be looked at as a model to have, other pieces and parts incorporated for your programs as well. At the very beginning of the webinar, they talked about only 6% of the folks on the line being from state DOTs, but almost half of the folks on this webinar were from local agencies. I encourage you as local agencies to take this information back if your state DOT wasn't on here and make sure you share it with them. In Ohio, on an annual basis, we have nearing 300,000 crashes on our roadways. And those are all crashes, property damage, all the way to our fatalities. Of course, it doesn't include the number of unreported crashes where someone gets pulled out of a ditch somewhere and doesn't call law enforcement. So we know that number is really even higher. Unfortunately, last year in Ohio of 2019, we had 1,143 people that didn't get to go home to their families and their loved ones at the end of a day because of a crash on our roadway system. And, just one person is too many. But, when you're nearing numbers like that, and, unfortunately, historically our trend, it's, while we've been on the downhill slide in some years, we've now seen it trend back up. And we want to get it, down as far as we can, as quickly as possible. So we have, in Ohio, 70% of our crashes occurring on the local system. And that's because 84% of our roads are owned by our locals. 54% of the deaths, 62% of the serious injury crashes. So, we are looking at this definitely, get back to the slides there, in different ways as far as what is the problem, the occurrence, the contributing factor behind the crashes, but we also look at it in a lot of different categories through our Strategic Highway Safety Plan. And we have specific emphasis areas that we're looking at to try to drive down the crashes that are occurring on our system. And what I'm going to share with you today really is a process. It's a whole program. I'm only a piece of this program. There are other people that own different pieces of this program, but we work together as a team to make these resources available. And local road safety plans are definitely a big part of this process. But we're going to talk through each one of these areas and identifying the issues and locations. We're fortunate in Ohio to have great data, and we also have great support for the information we're able to provide. Our Strategic Highway Safety Plan, we have dashboards in every one of our focus areas, and then we also are able to do leveling down just to the various jurisdictions to look at their information. In Ohio, our locals own the roadways. It's a home rule state. We have 88 counties, 1,308 townships, and over 900 cities and villages. So we have over 2,300 different local agencies we're working with, and we can take our crash data down to the local level. And we have various dashboards that are available. You have to start with the data. Just like when you feel a breeze in your house and you're like, where's that breeze coming from? You look around to see, what are the contributing factors. Well, it might be that you've got, some breeze coming in around a switch plate, but you might also have a front door standing open that your teenager left when they went out to get something. You look at your data and you deal with the biggest issues first, like that front door where the cold breeze is blowing in the largest space before you deal with the smaller issues. In Ohio, we've been able to leverage a number of different resources to provide real-time maps. Our data comes in off of our crash report, which is the OH1. It's the same report that's used by all law enforcement agencies in Ohio. And we have real-time crash reporting for a good portion of our law enforcement agencies, that they are able to put that information in, and within hours we can pull it out on the other end to see that there's been a crash. Now, it's not perfect. We still have some jurisdictions that are paper reporting, and we've had great support from our law enforcement community to try to get everybody on board with the in-car reporting. But we also have a great safety toolbox for our local jurisdictions where we have our map room. And in that map room, they can go there to actually pull up their highway safety maps that are built just on their jurisdiction's level. And they can look at it, for their city, for their county, for their township. And those maps then will highlight for them, where the problem areas are. And that problem area map is really what needs to be used when they're looking at applying for safety funding, which is one of the next pieces I'm going to talk to you about. But we are able to put these maps out there, and we generate them once a year for the local jurisdictions for the township level. But we also make available the tools if you want to go in and do the real-time reporting. We feel we need to have both available because not everybody is savvy enough to get in there and build their own crash map. But if you are, and a lot of times, it's not necessarily, the person that needs the data that is, but they can find someone else in the office to build that map with our tools. They can definitely get in there to build that. But, at a minimum, the PDF is there, and it demonstrates the previous 5 years crash history. And we do, when we're doing it by jurisdiction, we do it just for the roads that belong to that jurisdiction that are highlighted for them. We also have our crash trees, which are made available because those are used in the process for looking at systemic improvements on our systems. So there's quite a bit of data available for our locals. And our MPOs and RTPOs, the Regional Transportation Planning Organizations, Rural Transportation Planning Organizations, are instrumental in helping to get the data out as well to our locals. We're very rich here in Ohio as far as having majority of our counties in an MPO or an RTPO, and they are excellent partners with our locals and making sure that the region's crash information is highlighted in their reports and working hand in glove with the local jurisdictions to use that data to apply for funding to improve the safety on the local roadways. So the real-time tools that we have available, just to cover those very quickly for you, we have our TMMS system. We also have our TIMS system, and a GCAT tool, a CAM tool, and an ECAT tool. And I'm just going to cover these quickly, but if you would like more information, my contact information and that of one of my colleagues who's very involved with the data analysis portion of the process here in Ohio is going to be provided at the end, and I definitely encourage you to reach out. We're happy to share whatever we have, right down to the code for systems. So if your state is interested in looking at leveraging that. But our TMMS system, we actually pull data in working with our local jurisdictions for roadway counts. We believe in having a system that covers everybody, not just the state DOT. So we have our state DOT traffic counts, but we also will pull information in for the local systems as well who want to participate in that program. Our TIMS system as well, we pull information in for that, not only information that's based on the state system, but information for our local system when it's available from our locals. Our TIMS system has a GCAT component, the GIS Crash Analysis Tool, where you can go in and just look at a county or say at a specific roadway to figure out what are the crashes that are occurring there. We have over 10 years of data now available in the GCAT system. And the GCAT system will also allow you to export the data into an Excel spreadsheet tool called the CAM tool, which once you have the data exported in there, it's really just the press of about 3 buttons, and you can have all of the charts and graphs you're seeing on the screen automatically created for you. Our ECAT tool helps to look at the economic impact of the crashes. And those tools are all available to help you justify why you need the safety funding. And the safety funding, I think, is one of the keys for making it a successful program here in Ohio. Not only are we saying that safety is important, but we're putting the money out there to say, here's the money to move forward and take care of the safety problems. And we're doing it in a number of different ways. And I'm going to go over those in the next few slides. But we have about $90 million available annually through our competitive safety project selection process that our locals can apply for in order to fund safety projects. And we look at all types of projects, and we look at funding all phases of the project development. We're not just focused on spot safety, we're focused on systemic safety and systematic safety as well. Spot safety projects, you can look at funding for a specific project. You could ask for up to $10 million. Typically, they're funded at about $5 million. But, intersection reconfigurations, rural curve realignments, interchange upgrades, they're really those projects are applied for on a basis that I'll explain here in a few minutes as far as a twice-a-year process. But we also have system-wide or systemic treatments that we look at making that are lower cost and go for many, many miles across our system. And, a big focus and emphasis of the funding that we've put out has been focused on the systemic treatments because we have seen a tremendous reduction in crashes once those treatments are put in place. For the spot safety treatments that are costing more than $500,000, we have that twice-a-year competitive application process. But we do have a abbreviated application process that if your fix that you're looking at for your safety problem is less than $500,000, then you can apply any time, and that application is open year-round. So, it's for the full safety application process, you have to include quite a bit of information, but there's quite a bit of money you're asking for there. So your level of effort and data needs to match the funding level that's being asked for. On our full safety application process, we do have a link to the information there, right down to the safety study that's required for that. And then for our abbreviated safety application process, it's just a one-page application, and we're happy to share all this information with you. But our county engineers actually have direct access to fill this out. They are both licensed engineers and surveyors here in Ohio. If you're not a county engineer, if you're with a city, village, or township, you can just contact our district office and we'll assist with getting that abbreviated safety application filled out. But there's funding available for that. At a minimum level, you have to have the crash diagrams, trends, those crash trees that we're printing out and making available. But on a maximum level, it's that safety study that has to be done for the higher cost projects that are applied for twice a year. And we do have local safety assistance available to get those pieces completed for you if you need them. And that's another piece of our puzzle here. And this is really where the local road safety plans are coming into place as well, is, as you're looking at and trying to build towards applying for safety funding, you really do need to have a plan. And we actually have funding available to help our locals get local road safety plans established. We're looking at them really, after having participated in the NACE pilot initially, at more of a regional level, because we want to be able to, do the types of improvements that are being funded through the dollars across the entire system, and many times our regions cross jurisdictions. We also have funding available for systemic safety improvements, and we'll fund, a consultant to go out and help with road safety audits. We started those actually through our LTAP center, which is located here in the DOT inside the Office of Local Programs. And it became so popular that our safety program decided to commit money to assist with that. So our local safety assistance application is very simple, straightforward. You just fill it out and submit it, and then your request is evaluated. To date, we actually have 8 different regional and county safety plans that have been completed And we have 2 systemic safety improvement projects and 18 different road safety audits or safety studies since we kicked off this local safety assistance program in September 2018. So we're really pleased with the progress of that program. We also have training that's available through our LTAP Center for our local jurisdictions. And in our LTAP training, the 3 areas I wanted to call out and make certain that you were aware of were our Traffic Academy. We have specifically a course on safety studies and safety courses that are available there. And our Traffic Academy, while there has been a small fee to attend that, up till now we're working on converting a lot of those courses over to e-learning, which won't have any fee then related to them for our locals. Now the next 2 categories are Active Transportation Academy and our NHI safety related courses. We are very fortunate here in Ohio to be able to offer those for free. We do the NHI courses through a grant from our Governor's Traffic Safety Office, and then our Active Transportation Academy is actually funded out of our safety funds here at the DOT, and we provide 18 different courses in that area, from community traffic calming and complete streets to health and equity and transportation, because we want to make certain that as a local roadway owner, you have the information and the knowledge you need in order to then work with the team to create the local road safety plan, which utilizes the data to apply for the funding and fix the issues on your local roadway. So, looks like we're back to one of the slides from the Rural Safety Center. I'll just go ahead and turn things back over then.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And at this point, we will take questions in the chat pod over on the left-hand side. I know we're getting pretty close to the end of the time, but if you do have some questions, we'd love to answer those for you. At the same time, I'm going to pull up our last poll question, and we'll go through this also fairly quickly. But Ohio DOT uses which approaches to support local road safety plan development? Creation of a safety toolbox for locals, funding, technical assistance, providing data tools to locals, training, all of the above, none of the above, or I don't know, I don't remember. And then lastly, again, that challenge question. After listening to this section of the webinar, please write down and share with us, if you'd like, one action item that you can do to improve rural road safety in your jurisdiction.
On that top question about Ohio, make sure you don't just pick the top answer. Read all the way down.
Okay, and at this point I have ended that poll and broadcast the results for you. All right, Victoria, if you'd like to go ahead and respond to the poll question, please.
Well, I'm just glad to see that everybody chose all of the above, because we do have every bit of the, every one of those items that are listed there as a part of our process here in Ohio. Thanks.
And then we do have a couple of questions that are coming into the chat pod for you, Victoria. I'm going to go ahead and go back over to our presentation and get us wrapped up, but if you wouldn't mind going ahead and responding to those in the chat pod, we would appreciate that.
Sure, I'm going to take the one that I see from Jerry Roche first. What he wanted to know what were the next steps for advancing and developing more local road safety plans. It's talking to people, Jerry. We get out and we talk to people. In Ohio, the LTAP Center has a plan where we go out and meet with the townships and county engineers. On an annual basis, we cover 1/3 of the state, and we believe in being out where the customers are of our program and giving them the information and showing them their crash maps and letting them know what resources are available and connecting them to the resources.
Perfect, thank you. Another question that came in and is whether or not there are any completed LRSPs from any cities. And I'm not sure, Victoria, if you do not know that, perhaps Hillary might know that answer too.
Well, what we've done after we worked with the initial counties that were part of the pilot is we looked on it at it on a regional basis. So we could get you the examples from the regional local road safety plans. But I don't believe they've done one specific to a city, because we wanted to, majority of our cities are in areas where there's MPOs, and we wanted the MPO to stay engaged and involved throughout this entire process, because everybody needs to be at the table.
Another question that came in for you as well was the input from the other stakeholders useful in developing the document?
Input from the stakeholders is always important in developing the document. I can think of our local road safety plan up in Holmes County. We had everybody at the table, including the Amish community and the Mennonite community, who are sensitive users of the roadway due to the fact that they only travel by horse and buggy. So you need to have everybody at the table.
Another question is, what is the percentage of requested projects that were funded?
To date, I believe, last time I checked, we've been able to, for the portion where we're doing the safety assistance, it's been 100% funding. Now, the projects that go through the traditional twice-a-year application cycle, that has been a long-standing program here in Ohio. It's been in place for well over 10 years, so I'd have to go back and ask for what their percentages are. But I know that, you know, they try very hard to get to yes as an answer, because we want to be able to fund good projects and get, you know, improvements made on our roadways.
Another question is, did ODOT do a post-LRSP project implementation analysis so as to verify actual drop in crash rates?
You know, since it really started with that NACE pilot, and we officially kicked off our local assistance in September of 2018, we haven't had time yet to do that analysis. We're not to that point in the local road safety plan process. But I can tell you that we've done safety analysis in other areas, such as our township sign grant program, where we provide signs to our townships and they install them with their own forces. That's a mature program here in Ohio. It's been in place for over 6 years. And our post-installation data there has been excellent. We had a 62-to-1 cost-benefit ratio with providing signs that the townships then installed with their own forces to drive down crashes. The crashes overall were driven down 30% on the township system, with 100%, knock on wood, 100% fatality reduction on the township system.
And similar to that on the benefit costs, the next question is, can you please clarify on how the results of the local road safety plan would affect future HSIP scoring criteria, or maybe boost benefit cost ratios?
You know, the local road safety plan development definitely has been factored into the HSIP scoring, and I would have to get the actual document to show you how that has happened. But as far as the boost to the benefit cost ratios, again, we really only started it in September of 2018, so we need some more time to be able to get you the post-implementation benefit cost ratio data. It takes time to fund the project, and as we all know, it takes time to get it through the federal aid process. So I wish I could tell you in the course of, these 16 months, this is your benefit cost ratio, but, we just don't have those numbers for you yet.
And it does look like as well that FHWA has put into the chat pod that Minnesota does have some city plans developed for local road safety plans. So perhaps that would be a good place to look as well for the person who is looking for city local road safety plans. Okay, so you do have one more question coming in, and then I am going to go ahead and wrap up the rest of the webinar. The last one is, was the local road safety plan training formally rolled out statewide or just on an ad hoc basis?
The local road safety plan training was formally rolled out on a statewide basis, and we do follow up and do it as requested as well, but it's part of our package of tools that can be utilized to improve the safety on your roadway. So it's definitely statewide. And Hillary, yes, I'll go ahead and post a link to the signing program, and I can email over to Jamie too an article that I have that was written about the program if anybody's interested in reading it.
Perfect. We'd be glad to post that with the recording of the webinar too, so that people will have access to that on our website. In wrapping up the webinar, in this particular webinar, you guys have learned to list resources for development of local road safety plans. A lot of those have been put in the chat pod today, and again, we'll post those along with the recording. To contrast agency approaches to supporting development of LRSPs, and to summarize variations of development of local road safety plans. I do want to let you know about 2 more upcoming webinars we have scheduled. On February 18th, we will be having one on the unpaving guide that is coming out through Minnesota's Local Road Research Board. And then in March, we will be having one on effective traffic safety messaging. As always, all of the webinars are archived on our website. If you missed the Local Road Safety Plan Part 1, which was done in December, that one has already been posted to our website. I do want to invite you to join us for our 3rd Safety Summit, which will be coming up in Kansas City, Missouri, September 29th through October 1st. We'd love to have you all there. More information about that Safety Summit will be posted very shortly on our website. You can also follow us on social media as well. And I will leave you with the email addresses for all of our speakers in case you do have any further questions beyond what has been put in the chat pod. I do want to thank all of our presenters today. They shared a lot of great information, a lot of great resources, and we do appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to present and to share your expertise. So thank you to Hillary, Ken, Trisha, and Victoria. And everyone have a great afternoon, and we'll get this posted within the week for everyone. Thank you.